I often say in this channel, it's all the car you'd ever need. And the Mercedes E-Class is in that tier of cars. This particular example, however, has to be pointed out that for €90,000, which is what this car is spec'd to, and the wheels make up a big chunk of that price, there's no sunroof. 90 grand, no sunroof. Nothing. Not even a panoramic. But for that price, you get an E-Class. If it's in the right colour, like this charcoal grey black, it will look like an S-Class from some angles. And you'll get a Mercedes badge that actually moves now and isn't on the grille. And it's funny because when I was growing up, people were nicking these off the front of Mercs. And my young fella, who's only 5, the first thing he noticed in this car the other day was that badge. And he said, "Can I touch it?" To be fair to this car, and it's sleek and it's good looking, in this colour combo, you kind of look like a T-Shock. Or an ex-T-Shock, if you just decided to throw in the towel and walk away from the job. So bear that in mind. If you want to look like a bank executive or a ministerial guarded driver, this is the colour combo for you in the E-Class. Possibly not a Mercedes thing as we've expected Mercedes to do things, but there's now the Mercedes logo in the rear taillights on the E-Class. As you can probably tell from the E220D, this is a diesel version. Same with a petrol version, you'll get 540 litres in the boot. However, yes, there is a hybrid version, but that's 370. And that's no use for golf clubs and banking executive dinner stuff. Mercedes have put 2 on either side, very handy seat releases, so you don't have to go around to the back of the car if you need to drop those rear seats, and you can individually split it in a 60, 40, 70, 30, whatever way you want to call it, split. And underneath the boot, and possibly more beneficial if you have one of those hybrid versions for Type 2 charging cables, there is space under there too. Now, you'll always get a little bit of restriction by the design of a saloon car with the boot, but the aperture is not the worst I've seen. €90,000. Sorry to keep banging on about it. No electric boot. I mean, it's assisted going up, but not going down. Something else that this car has over its German friends in BMW, in the UK and Ireland, the 520D is dead. They said for a while the Touring was going to be in a diesel, and then they changed their mind. And just a couple of months ago, I filmed a coupe version of the E-Class, and at that point Mercedes said they were no longer making internal combustion cars after 2026 or something like that. And then a few days afterwards they said, actually we'll be making internal combustion engines till about 2035. Point remains though, if you want a diesel in this style of car, your options are an Audi A6 and this. One thing I will warn you of, because this beige cream is gorgeous, if you can get it with black carpets, it's probably for the best. Now, this is a press car. It gets lots of different people who will care about the car on various different levels, but the cream is kind of marked. And unless you can live in this car by yourself and never let anyone else in it with you and you'll mind it, it's just not going to last. That or get some rubber mats, and I'm sure Mercedes do some genuine OEM mats that you can put in the car. I'm also looking for the climate control screen and I'm not seeing it. You get an armrest, and not only that, there's some drinks holders and a little tablet groove in here that makes life easy. 2 little drinks holders pop out here as well. So it's nice. Feels...
No entries in the address book.
Cancel. The hey Mercedes thing can be a little bit... I can't shout her name because she'll hear me. There's a button here that you can press and you'll drop access to the rear boot, or just you have a plank of wood that you need to stick through here. Bob's your auntie. One of the benefits of not having a roof, if there is such a thing, is extra head height. So there is tons. Loads of space for knees, loads of space for feet. There's 2 well hidden USB-C charging ports down here. If you're wondering, has your car got them? Have a look, they're probably down there. Also, watch your head. Getting out here because that's a bit low. And I will say, I mean, I'm old enough to remember E-classes of old. And that doesn't sound like an E-class door anymore. Possibly made lighter for emissions, but still, it's an E-class. I want that to sound like it will take your limb off when you close it. Welcome to where the Mercedes magic happens. And you have this massive 14-inch screen for starters, which again, harking back to E-classes of old, is very different. Remember when there was just yellow needles and a black dashboard and some white numbers that kept tipping around to probably 2 million miles? But that's changed, and so has the interior of Mercedes. But you are possibly tastefully, possibly too in your facely with these Mercedes logos on what could be a hyper screen if you really are insane. The finish on the dash and everything you touch feels good. Even this wood grain effect. A couple of drinks holders down here, 2 USBs here, one under the armrest and a wireless charging plate. And if not using that, you can close that away and it's just gone. Then you have this overview camera, parking assistance, select different 3D views of the car. It does making parking, what is still quite a long car, easy to deal with. The ambient lighting at nighttime, oh God, it's good. Now, you can make it very bright. You can also watch YouTube on the car. And it's, again, light years ahead of what you might have expected in a Mercedes. It's quite blingy. As is this huge 3-spoke steering wheel. It has the kind of finicky haptic buttons on the side, your gear selectors just down here. Again, the old style, big black, heavy Merc handbrake. It's now just a little kind of chrome small button down below here. Your light switches are over this side. And then you have your driver instruments, which is really crisp. The graphics are class. It just looks super sharp. And it reminds you when you look at it that no matter how hard you drive this car, it will do 4.9 to 5 litres per 100 kilometres all day long. In fact, I've been driving this car since Monday. It's now Friday and I've still got 1,056 kilometres in the tank. Also, something else I love about Mercedes, all new cars have these EU regs where it'll beep at you if you go a kilometre over the speed limit. Just touch that and it's off. It'll reset every time, but it literally takes that effort. I wish other people could get on board with the same thing. Up front, classically contemporary Mercedes. There's a nice little feature coming up to a junction or a set of lights where it will open up the front camera. It's not needed, but it's a nice to have widescreen view of what's in front of you. Good for if there was a cyclist in front of you that for some reason you hadn't spotted. Anything that might be low down, out of your way, or a cat, or someone's dog. Doing this kind of driving though does make me feel like I should remind you again, there is petrol and there's hybrid. Petrol hybrid, obviously, like unless you're doing the mileage, and if you are, knock yourself out. I wouldn't be fearful at all in buying a diesel car, despite what all the noise is. On the one hand there's noise about diesel, the other hand there's noise about EVs. It must be very difficult as a consumer to know what way to go, and hopefully these videos help. The petrol hybrid, boot sacrifice aside, you're going to get quite usable range out of that. So you know, if you don't need the mileage, I suppose you could definitely consider them. I've also driven the 530e, speaking of hybrids, so if you want to have a look at that video, it's up here. And I really enjoyed driving that car. It was a lot of fun in the Cotswolds and country roads. But this E-Class, probably more than any other E-Class before it, is a pretty good match now for the 5 Series. Hey Mercedes.
Yes.
Who's going to win the Euros?
Could you repeat your input, please?
Who is going to win the Euros?
I've found no results. Looks like the Premier League season hasn't started yet.
Probably more of a golf fan if you're driving an E-Class. A very smooth, refined vehicle, can do the twisties, although when were we ever saying that in the same sentence as an E-Class before? It feels weird even saying it. But anyway, it can do it, at least you know for now. Everything else considered, an efficient, very luxurious car. yes, the extras get a bit spicy, as does the price tag. As much as I've picked on things like the lack of a glass roof, this has selective dampers, which it's like a different personality set of dampers. Motorways, it's really smooth. Twisty roads, it's actually a lot of crack to drive, and I've had the back step out ever so slightly a couple of times. There's 4 different petrol versions. Some of you will just go straight to the diesel bank and select this 2 litre 197 brake horsepower version. There is a boost of about 22 brake horsepower on top of that for when you use the kick down in the car. The plug-in hybrid versions of this, you're looking at the guts of 100 kilometers out of a single charge, which for a lot of people will be enough. And if you do still need a boot with a hybrid, you could look at the touring version of this car. It's a few quid off 80,000 euro for the avant-garde version of the E-Class. It's almost 3,000 euro on top of that again for the exclusive version, and another 7,000 if you want an AMG. Make no mistake though, for all the things I've nitpicked at in this car in this video review, cause that's my job, this is still one of the most capable saloon cars I've tested this year. And it is expensive, but in this case, it's an example of you get what you pay for. And if you buy an E-Class, you'll be happy. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.